What is a function? Well, you kind of imagine a function is a block of code which can be called many times and referenced to throughout a program. It may also return a value or not, depending on the use of the function. And also it might be a user-defined function, an imported function, or a built-in function of Python. So if we look at the different types of functions, in particular built-in functions, here are just a few that Python uses. So you have the familiar print command, which given its parameter inside the brackets will output to the screen. You've got the familiar input, which takes an input from the user and returns a value. You've got the int command, which will take as its parameter a value which it will convert into a integer, that is a whole number. You then have a string which will take its value and convert to a string. You also have the binary function which will convert a value into a binary value. You have the type function which will return the type of the variable inputted, and also the hex which will convert a value into a hexadecimal value. So what do all these functions have in common? Well, they all have a name, of course, and they also have a parameter, a value you would give the function. And in some functions, you would have a return value. So, for example, the input function here, which will return whatever the user has inputted. Now, user built-in functions are created very simply in Python using the following method. So we have def command, which basically means I'm going to create a function. We then have the function name, and then in brackets we have a specify or not specify the parameters that function is going to use. We then have the program code for that particular function, and then we use the return command to either return a value or not. And then we simply, once we've created the function, we can then call the function, giving this as an example here. So we've got an output function which prints hello, and we then simply call the function output brackets, and we can either specify the parameters or not. Dealing with parameters is dealt with in different languages, and the main two ways in which we deal with parameters, one is by what we call pass by value and pass by reference. What this means in the context of Python, I will go on to explain. So pass by value is the idea of copying the parameter from the function being called to the function. In Python, you can only do this using immutable objects, that is, integers, Boolean values, floats, strings, and tuples. So to give you an example of what I mean, here we have a function called pass by value, which takes the parameter x, adds 1 to it, and returns x. And then we call the function using the value 20. So in reality, what happens is a copy of the value 20 is taken to the function pass by value, as you can see. So x is now 20. We then add 1 to x, so it becomes 21, and then we return the value of x to where it was called from, as you can see here. So 20 will be returned. And we can demonstrate this in the actual code as following. So we have the function defined here, we run the function, and the value will output 21. We could also add in a variable called temp, and this could, instead of putting the value 20, we put the variable temp. So a copy of the value of temp is taken to the function and run, and then we get an answer 31, which is correct. So pass by reference is slightly different. Instead of sending a copy of the variable to the function you are calling, we are sending a reference to the variable that you are sending to the function. So any changes made to the variable within the function are automatically reflected back to the variable where it was called from. Now we can only do this in Python using mutable objects, that is, lists, dictionaries, sets, and byte arrays. So to illustrate my point, let's look at the following program. So we have a function here called pass by reference, and we are, as the parameters, we are having a list called list values. And then within the function, we are taking that list and appending the value 30 to it. So starting the program on line 7, as above, you will see that we create a list with the values 20 and 10. We then call the function pass by reference with the list y. So we're passing a reference to the list y to the function pass by reference, and that reference is called list value. So it's list values is pointing back to that variable. We then add 30 in line 4 to the list. So effectively what we're doing is adding 30 to the list, which is referenced back to y. So then when we print y in line 10, we should get the new list with the value 30 added to it, as you can see there. So there's no need to return the value. Now we can see this in the following program. We have here, we run it. Again, you can see that 30 has been added. We can change the list, as you can see here, and so therefore we should notice that the additional changes will still affect the list without having to return the value. The great thing about this also, we can mix and match pass by value and pass by reference. So I can pass by reference y, but pass by value 10, and return the value 10 back to x. So in this here, I'll create a variable called value 2 and add 1 to it, and then we're going to return that value, and that value will be assigned to x on the call back while still affecting y because of the call by reference. So now when we run it, and with the obviously printing the x so we can see the contents of the variables, you'll notice now not only have we appended y to the list, but we've also got x as well, so 11 at the bottom there. So to summarize what we have learnt, a function is a self-contained piece of code within your program that can be called many times. And as part of that, we can pass parameters to functions using either pass by value or pass by reference. Now, pass by value in Python is achieved using immutable objects, i.e. integers, boolean, floats, strings, and tuples. The value is copied to the function when called. Now, opposite to that is what we call pass by reference, which is the idea that you pass a reference to the variable that you are using to the function that you are calling. And when you change a copy of the variable in the function, you are changing where you're referring back to the variable, so you no need to return the variable. Now, strictly speaking, in Python, all variables are passed by reference, but for the sake of programming concepts and to understand the differences between pass by value, let's just assume that Python adopts the same sort of strategies to help in your thinking. Thank you for your time.